So this technology is brought to you by the Keshe Foundation, and obviously 2 websites that one can connect to and to get further information. All right, so we're going to kick off into part 3, being on the further understanding of what all the science is all about. First of all, I'll just do a review, going back to our very first workshop, just to bring everybody back up to speed and get our thinking along the same lines. So we begin to understand that everything in this universe and beyond is made of fields. And we introduced you to the concept of magnetic and gravitational fields, which we commonly refer to as MAGRAV fields. And just to recap on what they really mean. So if we understand, we showed the video of the 2 magnets. So last on part 1. So when the magnets repel each other, we call that magnetical. And when sort of magneticals attract each other, we call that gravitational. And it's the strength of each magnet will dictate that gap that they keep between. And as you saw, as one moves, the other one just repositions and maintains that distance. And when we look at the interaction of the fields between the 2 magnets or 2 plasmas, as referred to, so the fields exiting the one, if you look at interact and enter the bottom of the next plasma, and this is how they keep their distance from each other and keep that gap. It's how they interact with each other, even though they're not in direct contact. And we had sort of brought to you the understanding that we, from the matter state, we go into the nano, and we showed you a bit of the GANs. So today we're going to look a little bit deeper into what we term the sort of the plasma and the fields that make up the plasma. There's just a nice picture, which we will go on later on today, of the plasma fields which we have that have been put into the ice when we freeze the water. Okay, so when we look at a plasma, we've got to look at the sort of magnetical and gravitational fields of this plasma. And a plasma can be made of millions and millions of fields which come together and interact continuously. It's a sort of dynamic field interaction. Now, when we look at the direction of flow of these fields, this flow really dictates what we call magnetical and gravitational fields, because the magnetical is flowing out or away, and gravitational are the ones flowing in or towards, because they've been attracted inwards. And when we look at sort of further definitions of these 2 words, when we look at magnetical, we can define it as the interaction of different magnetic fields of different strengths, creating the initial seeds of the plasma, where the outward flowing fields are known as magnetic fields. And when we look at the definition of gravitational, it's the interaction of different magnetic fields of different strengths, creating the initial seeds of the plasma, where the inward flowing fields are known as the gravitational fields. So that gives you a nice definition of those 2 meanings. So when we look at the plasma itself, the fields are constantly given out, and what is not needed in the environment is then taken back in to the center. So what comes out comes back in at the bottom, but what comes out from the plasma and is not needed in the environment is then taken back in. So that's the principle when we really go into on depths on the soul side later on. It's the principle of giving and receiving unconditionally, because there's nothing attached to it. It's just given out. What is not needed is then taken back in again. So to sum all that up on what plasma is really about, it can be made of millions and millions of fields that come together and interact continuously. So it's a dynamic field interaction of these fields, and that's what creates the plasma, what we know as the plasma. Now, when we take a look at sort of the world around us, we've been told that when we look at an atom, we sort of have a lot of empty space. And if you try and put that space into understanding, if we take a golf ball was the neutron, then the electron would be 1 kilometer away. So we have to ask the question then, what is in the space? What makes the electron move in relation to the protons and neutrons in the middle? And what makes them keep their distance? Because there is a huge amount of space in between. And essentially then, we have to say that this empty space is filled with the magnetic fields. And we can extend this further if we look out into our solar system and we see the sun and we see the planets in our solar system, but we do see a lot of vast empty space. And this is also filled with magnetic fields and magnetic rays. So even though we perceive it as empty, we don't see them. They are filled with these magnetic fields and magnetic rays. So now we're going to have a look at how a single plasma is formed. And there we've got the small video that we have. So I'm going to stop sharing there for Flint.
So this is just an animation showing how a plasma is formed from singular rays.
So as you can see, you've got your two magnetic rays, and when two rays of similar strength find each other, they start interacting and you start the beginnings in the creation of a plasma with those magnetic rays. And then you start getting a dynamic interaction of these rays forming your plasma. Okay, Flint, thanks very much. I think most of us have seen this video, this small video clip. It's been around a very long time, but it does give you the essence of interaction of these fields.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we then have to view that we see the dynamic interaction of these fields. So you've got the magnetic rays coming together, they find a match, and they start interacting with each other, and they start creating that dynamic interaction of these fields. And this is what we call sort of a plasma. And we only see these fields when they slow down enough to become the matter state. You know, that's why these fields are going at there are different strengths out there. That's why we don't see them. So we only see those which have slowed down enough for us to be able to see it as the matter state. So as we can see, a small plasma we can call an atom or a proton. A bigger plasma is the Earth. The Sun is an even bigger plasma. Our solar system is a plasma. Our galaxy is a plasma. Our universe is a plasma. It's just an interaction of the fields on a different strength, a different scale. Now I'll go into this a bit more detail so that we can understand this concept. So here's the atom is a plasma. Now we can see this is sort of an actual photograph, and you see right in the center is that principal field. And that empty space that we have sort of learnt and had been taught at school is filled with these fields. We just don't see those fields, but they are filled with those interaction of those fields. And we learned last week that our body is also a plasma, which is made up of billions of little plasmas. So all our little cells, which make up our organs, they are all an interaction of fields creating different parts of the body, different parts of the organ, and in total creating a plasma of us. We introduced the same concept last week with the plants as well. Where the different parts of the plant come together to create the total plasma of the plant as well. So everything we can see is just made of the fields. It's just how they come together is what they create, whether it's a plant, an animal, a man, an insect, or stone. Say the Earth is a large plasma. We've seen many sort of photographs illustrating the magnetic fields of Earth, coming out the north, coming in at sort of the southern part of the Earth. So we've got to view the Earth as just a large plasma, a large interaction of fields which are creating the planet on which we are living. The solar system in which we have our sun and Earth and all our planets is just another larger plasma that we have to view. And we see our sun and we see our Earth and our other planet, and all the other planets are also just interactions of fields at certain distances within our solar system. Our Milky Way galaxy is also a large plasma. It can be viewed. And our universe is the same. It's just a larger version of the same magnetic fields of different strength as in the plasma of an electron or proton. So it's still the same interaction of the fields coming together to create what we see as our universe, or our solar system, or our sun, or our earth, or even ourselves, or the plants. And when we look at the coexistence and the interaction of these magnetic and gravitational field forces, it leads to the creation of a magnetosphere for the entity. So when we look at that atom, it has its own sort of magnetosphere. The Earth has its magnetosphere that we can see. So would our solar system, so would the galaxy. So everything is the same. It's just the scale and the different field strengths. And this boundary is the maximum point of balance or equality between the two magnetic forces, magnetical and gravitational, which creates our magnetosphere. So let's try and put all of this into perspective, something, a different point of view that we can maybe understand a bit better. Here we've got, as we've said, we've got the Earth, our solar system, galaxy, and universe, all as plasmas. So it's just a larger version of the same magnetic fields of different strength as in the plasma of an electron or proton. But what important thing that we have to understand, though, is that when we look at Earth, Earth is within the magnetic and gravitational field forces of our solar system. And our solar system is again within the magnetic and gravitational field forces of our galaxy. We bring the same concept right back down to our bodies when we look at our body and our organs and the cells and the tiny little amino acids. It's just the same, a larger version of the same magnetic fields of different strength as in the plasma of an electron or a proton. And then we can say the same, that the cells are within the magnetical and gravitational field forces of an organ. So hopefully with that you can understand how things all fit together, whether it's on a very larger scale or whether it's within our body or any other organism. So from a single atom, we get molecules, amino acids, proteins, muscles, bones, our blood, our skin. They're all a collection of fields, plasmas which manifest themselves in different states because of different environmental conditions. And together they create the man, the planets, the animals, the rocks, whether it's our sun, the solar system, our galaxy or universe. And when we look at just the way that we are made up, could we not say that man is like the universe? It's just a collection of planets, solar systems, and galaxies. So, it really puts that into perspective as what we've often heard of, as above, so below. So this is how the plasma operates. It's just the scale that differs, or this different field strength which differs, but it all operates exactly the same. And I just thought I'd bring this one in because I know Rick did ask the question last on the very first part one on terms of gravity. So when we have a look at the Earth and we've got ourselves, we could say that gravity is a measure of the interaction and attraction of two or more magnetic rays or magnetic field systems. of two or more entities with respect to each other's strength and position at any point. And to simplify that, it's essentially two plasma entities interacting and finding their position, and the much stronger one will pull in the weaker ones, the stronger one being Earth and then ourselves. Because we've got to view everything as a plasma, and everything in the view of positioning and interaction of these fields. So gravity is due to the interaction of the magnetic fields. And these magnetic fields that make up our body come from the magnetic fields of our sun, the galaxy, and the universe. So nothing in this world or universe can exist without the magnetic fields. This has been the mystery of creation, that everything is made of these fields. And the whole world is made of the maggrav fields. It's the interaction of the magnetic and gravitational fields which create what we see. And the universe is built on the interaction of these fields. These fields are in constant motion, going from one place to another, depending on their strength and depending on their position. And when these fields slow down enough, it becomes the matter state. That's what we can see. So this is not a new science, but just a further understanding of the interaction of the fields that creates everything around us, that creates who we are and everything around us. And as to do some nice experiments at home, just to sort of see for yourself how these fields look, the best ways to do a nice ice experiment at home. And this is the one that we had done very early on. It was great to actually see what these fields look like. So what we had done was we had just filled a little bracelet. You can see the photograph on the left. It's just a small tube that we had filled with water and a small amount of CO2 gas. Oops. There we go. And what we had done was we had filled a bowl of water, and we'd put a Glad wrap plastic over that bowl, and then we had placed that ring on top so that there was obviously a distance between the water and that bracelet. And then we had placed that into the fridge, and then we let it was in there for I think 2 or 3 days to freeze up. And now you can see the photograph on the left there and the right, how these fields just from that bracelet fields are interacting, and that ice has frozen those fields in time. So it's a great experiment for you to see. Sorry, these things flipping around. And then when in this particular one, I think it had been in the fridge for a freezer for 2 days at least. And then when we had broken it open, we discovered there in the middle was a perfect round hole, where that even after 2 or 3 days in the freezer, it just had not frozen and just remained that hole. So that's your principal sort of field strength there in the middle. So the field forces within the water are so strong that the ice will not complete the freezing process even after 2 to 3 days. And so it just shows you the strong field forces that we are dealing with just from a tiny little bracelet. So it's a nice experiment for you to do at home and play around with. We've done many, many science experiments like this, and so it was always nice, fantastic to see. And you can see then the fields itself, those total interaction of those fields. So as a summary, we can see that a plasma can be made of millions and millions of fields that come together and interact continuously. So it's from the cells in our body to the galaxy in our universe, all is a plasma and operates in the same way. And the whole universe is built on the interaction of these fields. These fields are in constant motion, going from one place to another, depending on their strength, depending on their position.